and what kind of thing that we need to consider to improve the process. Okay. Some part of the slides come from my slide that I'm used for trainings outside. But so just relax. There is no theory much because this process is also not doesn't because it's depend on which process then you're gonna do. So and also we need to do like a process mapping that we don't have enough time. So just about the idea that what it's about. Okay. I'm waiting for that. Okay, I'm going to talk at first a little bit. Okay, so nothing really serious, right? Because the main point is about the improvement of the process. It's gonna cover in the second part. Right? For the process management, actually, it's more about the how can you plan that and administering of the activities, right? In order to increase the performance of, especially for the key processes, right? And also we try to certify the customer. Okay? We know that for the supply chain is involved a lot of processes, right? You have the internal processes, you have the external processes, you have the process that connect to outside organization, right? And also inside organization. But anyway, for the company that has a very successful of their management, that try to identify, right, the business processes that create the value, right, to their customer and also their company, and then they try to adjust and improve that processes, right, in order to achieve the excellence of their performance. But before we go to the concept of manage and improve the process, we need to understand that actually there are two categories of the processes, right? The first one is about the value creation processes, and the second one is about the support processes, right? So before we improve, we need to understand these two things. So value creation processes is very easy. That is more about the process that running your business. So normally, what kind of process that running your business? Production process, something like that, right? All the things that you create, the service and the products for your company, right? Design processes, right? Deliver processes. So all this is called value creation process, right? The process that running your business. And another process that's quite important and help support the value creation process we call support process. Right? The support process is just, for example, involve about the finance and the accounting or something like that that help support the main or the core value of your company that you run, that used to run the business. Okay, and we already study about the process control, right? And what kind of different things between the process control and improvements. Or after we understand that, okay, we have value creation process, we have the supporting process. Next, we need to understand that in order to improve the process, at first we need to make sure the process you're in control, right? We try to eliminate, right, the our control things of your process. And then after that, in the future, we try to make sure that we, from that process that we already control, we can improve for the future. So it's beyond the control, right? First, you need to make sure that process is in control, and then you try to improve it to getting better and better to achieve the excellent performance. Okay. So this is the list of the leading practice for the successful company about the process management. For example, what did they do? The first one is about they have like a defined document and manage the importance of value creation and support this process. So it means firstly, the thing that the leading practice company they do is about to identify, right, the value creation and support processes, and then you need to translate, right, the requirement or what the customer need, right, and especially for example, if we talk about the process design, you need to make sure that you translate the customer requirement into the product and service design, and we ensure that the quality is built into the product and service during the development of the process. Right. So, for the next thing is that, okay, suppose that we're gonna improve the process. So what kind of starting point that we can do? So we can think about reduce all the setting up time, improve all the qualities, and also enhance all the communication within the process. So this is the thing that a basic thing that we can do. And for sure that, as I mentioned, that the process is not just only the internal, we also have the external process, especially for connecting to the outside organizations such as the supplier, right? So we need to make sure that all the requirement of that outside process that we're gonna connect to supplier and others organization, we meet the requirements. And we need to apply the concept that when we try to improve the process, we need to finding the root cause of the problems, and then we try to correct it. Right? So before we get into the root cause of the problem, this means that you need to analyze all the data, current status, and also compare to the target that you want. So then you can get a gap, and then you try to apply the tool in order to investigate to find the root cause, right? And then we try to improve, right? After we finding the root cause, we try to correct it and improve the process, right? And as I mentioned, that the normal things that we can do is about measuring the better performance in the case of quality and the time, right? And also that after we improve, we want to make sure that we can continue that condition for into the future, right? So normally at first, the process that I'm going to show you maybe involve about the product development process, right? Because it's very simple one that this is a core value of the company, and you can see that the product development process is starting with the generate of your idea, right? And then you try to development from your idea. You try to have the initial of your starting of the process by develop the concept, maybe prototype or something like that, and then you design, right, of the make sure that we translate the requirements of the customer that they want into the products or the service, right? And then we make the full scale of production, and for sure that after we finish the production, we need to launch it to the market, so we can have the initial for introduction of the product and evaluate at the end, right? This is like the normal process that involve about the core value of the company, that is about the product development process. But we also have another process, right, that you may think about is about the service process. But before we go to the product service process, so this is the key idea for the product development process. You can say that, okay, if we are not improve this process, it's gonna you're gonna have the problem, right, of the not get the benefits of the cost, right? That maybe you can reduce the manufacturing cost, both direct and indirect cost, and also you can make sure that all the output that you make from the process is meet the requirement of the customer. So in order to improve, like, for example, the product development process. You might think about, okay, finally it's happening. You might think about the way that we can, okay, design, we have a design for manufacturability. This means that we try to make it very easy to make the production. So this is another way of improve the product development process, right? So in conclusion, the design process involves all the cost, and it affects about the cost of manufacturing, and also we want to make it more efficient, right? So then and also we want to make sure that the output of the product development process is meet the requirement or the requirement that the customer want. So one thing that we can do for the product development process is to using the concept of design for manufacturability. That will be we can make is reduce the complexity of the production. We try to design the product that can have the easiest way to make the production, right? Because design for manufacturability is have an intention to simplify, right, the assembly operation, right? Reduce the complex and the excessive components, right? And make it very simple in order to have the easier of the production process. But anyway, as I mentioned that for the process, not just only the product development process, we also have another important process that we call the service process. Right? And for designing the service process, there is three basic components that we need to consider. Right? But the first one is about the physical facilities. So you can say that it doesn't mean that you're going to provide a service to the customer and you just think about your service, but one thing that very important is about your facilities, right? But you need the facility, you need the physical ones to help get better about your service process. The second one, beside the physical facility, is about the employee behavior. Right? So behavior of the employee, such as if you have the business in, let's say, in the food company or the restaurant. So the employee behavior, you can think about the waitress or the busboy, busgirl, something like that, that they can have their behavior that impact to the customer. And another one is about the employee professional judgment, right? Decision making, the judgment is another important point. So how well of your employee to resolve the problem if they face the empowerment of your employee to make that adjustment when they see the problem. Right? So this three basic components is quite important for design the service process. So in conclusion, right now at the beginning I just talk about general information about the process. I mentioned that process involve in internal and external. I mentioned that, okay, process, we have the value creation process and support process. And the most important, very basic one for the process in the company is about the design process, for example, product development process. And another one, in the case that your company have your product, is the service company, so you're going to have another one we call the service process. So then we talk about how can we design a service process. I said that, okay, we need the three components, right? So physical of the facilities, behavior of the employees, and also the judgment of the employees. And this is like the key service dimension. So it's mean based on the service, right? There are three dimensions, right? That the impact, right, to your performance of your service, right? How well that you customize to the need and the want of the customer, about the labor intensities, and also the customer contact, right? This is like the key service dimension that important to to the service process, right? Because customization is mean you try to respond right to the need and the want of the customer, and if you have more interaction or customer contact, right? So this, you have the better service for sure. And also the labor intensities, right? So labor, as I mentioned about the employee behavior, employee adjustment. So the labor is quite, have their very high impact to the service of your companies. And also, we also need to think about not just try to fix the problem for the service. Is this the best way that we can have about the concept of doing things right at the first time? So just like the qualities, right? So because if you have the problem that occurs, might be make that customer unhappy, and you have the higher chance that they're gonna not using or visit or use your service in the futures. So it's please be sure that everything that you decide for the service, you try to do the best for the customer. So we try to do the thing right at the first time, right? And also, in order to make a better process, simplify process is another concept that is a good way. Because if you have the service, especially for the service process, that's very complex. So you have the highest chance that you can have the mistakes and that's gonna happen. And also, the error is gonna minimize if you try to simplify the process, right? And for sure, service have a very high interaction with the customer, so it's more different expectation, different condition. So that's why the labor or the employee is quite important, right? Okay, and another one is that as I told you that we have the control. We need to control the process. The control the process means you try to ensure the conformance that of the process, right? And we try to correct, if we have some problem occur, right? And one thing about the process control that we have studied so far, that would be using the statistical method, right? In this case, we try to eliminate the assignable variation. Okay, this is your exam that you already did it, but in this case, we're going to talk about how can we improve the process, right? After you make sure that the process is in control. Okay? But anyway, before we go, there's just a little bit information about the process control. This is very important with the two reasons, right? Because the first one is help you to be the basics that have you have the effectiveness of your management, and also as I mentioned since the beginning of today's class, we cannot improve it if we are not make it in control. So firstly, you need to make sure that you control the process first, and then after that, we're gonna improve the process. Okay, and for the component of the controls, right? Normally, there's consists of you need to have the standard, or you need to have the goal of the process, and then you measuring, right, and compare the result with the standard. This is very general, right? And also, for sure that normally for the process, you need to get the feedback in order to improve for the next time. So after, even though you try to improve, right, and then or make it better when you compare to the standard, but we still need the feedback in order to make a better format in the future. So finally, for example, in manufacturing, we're gonna control in the key processes. We're gonna do it at the early stage of your production, such as your incoming material from the supplier, and also before we deliver the product to the customer. Right? The effective control system of the process have required this activities, the documents of the procedure of all key processes, understand how use the equipment and the work environments, method to monitors, and also approval for using the equipment, criteria, right, such as the written standard and also the maintenance activities. This is an effective list of control system. Okay, so now for the first 15 to 20 minutes right now, I just tell you about the important of the management of the process, right? So the next one is this. We're gonna see that, okay, how can we improve the process, right? So this is the list of the after action review, right? After you doing the control system, control of the process, right? We try to investigate that, okay, what we learned, okay, what is the thing, the difference, what is actually happened, and what is supposed to happen. This is just like the basic question, right, that we use for doing the improvement of the process, right? Because when you make the improvements, it means that you need the standard or the criteria or the target that you want, and then you compare with the current situation. Because of that, you're gonna find the gap between the standard and the current performance. So then you try to improve, right, the gap that have the narrows, right, in order to have the performance is very close to the target or the desire of the target that you want. And for the process improvements, right? So why it's so important? So far, it's just like that. You know, in every organization, you might see that they're gonna have the department or the division involved in improvement of the process, because the process improvement is involved directly to deliver the value to the customer. So the customer loyalty is directly related to how well that you deliver the value to the customer. So if you can improve the process of your company and make it get better, so then you have the higher chance to increase the loyalty of the customer for sure. This is because the customer made the decision and of their loyalty based on the value that they get from your company, right? And for sure, your value is come from business processes, so that's why we need to improve, right? And another thing is about the competitiveness in the market, right? We have the competitors, we have like the environmental change, right? So sometimes we change about the factor, we change about the external factor that impact to your business. It's going to impact to your process that might be changed. So then you need to make sure that you have the process that good enough to compete with your competitors. And the last one is quite important, because we don't know that, okay, the value creation process is the process that's running in your business. But it doesn't mean that when we try to improve the process, we're going to focus just only the value creation process. Because if you want to continuously improve the value creation process, you need to improve the other process as well. Right? For example, the supporting process to help the value creation process. So even though the value creation process is quite important, but we still need to pay attention on other process as well. Okay. And the next one, okay, I'm going to show you that the improvement is proactive tasks. So if you just reactive, this means that you waiting to you are lax management. You are just waiting because you have the problem and then you try to fix it. But if you make the improvement to be like a proactive task, so it means that you see the opportunities that you're gonna getting better and better. So this is quite the things that have the problem as well about the motivation, because some organizations they do like the process improvement because they do as the reactive because they have the problem, so then they try to resolve. But the concept of improvement is that okay, it's would be better if you think it's like a proactive, right? Because we try to looking forward, right, and try to see the opportunity that we can getting the better way to have the performance excellent. This slide I show you about the example of the achievement so far that very notable, especially in Thailand and other countries about the process improvement or process during the sales. You can see that, for example, the Thai national ID card. So I believe that some of you is in the era that when you try to make it in the past, you're waiting around 4 months. Right? And you can have like a yellow paper to use as a substitute. But right now, right, you have just a one-stop service. Right? Just 10 or 15 minutes, you can get your ID card. Right? This comes from the improvement of the process. As well as the Thai passport, right? Renewal or the application. In the past, you need 1 week. But right now, you can finish it within 2 days or something like that. Make it application today and maybe tomorrow you can get. And all the buildings about the design of the Boeing's 777 here, right, is using the process improvement to reduce the design process from 54 months into 10 months or something like that. So this is quite an achievement if you pay attention on the process improvement. Okay. So now the next thing from this slide to the last one. This can come from the slide that I'm used to doing like the trainings, right? Outside, it's not in the textbook. So it's just, let's say that we have like the activity together to talk, right? What kind of main concept, right? For the process improvement. Okay, so start with the what is process, right? So actually process, you might think about something that change, right? Input to be output, right? And we all know that in the business context, right? If I ask you that, okay, what is the business process? So, from process to business process. So we know that we transform the input to be output, right? So for the business process, I mean the output is going to be something like, product or service, something like that, right? So we talk that it's going to be like all the processes, include the value creation process and support process that produce by the output such as product or the service to the customer. Okay, and for sure that in order to improve the process, right? We see a lot of company that have the very good process, right, of their performance. This is quite the same chapter that we talk about the strategy in operations, right? You can say that right now, okay, the very, I think the very interesting process so far. One thing that we can see, right? Not this is about delivery process, right? You can see right now you have like a graph, right? You have like the lines, right? So when or curves, right? So let's say that now for maybe you want to have some like fried chickens, so you make an order, right, and let them to deliver for you. So the process is just directly, right, that you try to contact with the drivers, right, and then you select the restaurant, you place your orders, you contact the driver, and the driver is gonna, and the application gonna show you what the status of the driver, right, and then they come to you. So there are a lot of this kind of process so far because they improve from the past of the behavior of the customer change. So right now we have like a lot of application, a lot of online things. So the process might be involved much more in the past about using the IT or online. Right? And in this case, for example, Sarah is like the one of the business that have the very good process when they try to collect information of the customer, right, from the shop. And also they have their own factories. So the information is quite real fast from the catwalk to the headquarters or just within 2 weeks they're gonna have the design from the catwalk that you have the models to show the dress or the all design to show in the shop. Right? And IKEA is another one that have the really good process in the case that they try to let the customer involve into your main process. That main process is about the deliver process, right? Because they let the customer to be the one that carry all the stuff that they bought back to their home, right? There is no need to using the truck or another vehicle to deliver the product to the customer. Okay, and this is just the example, right? That very good process, and also for the service, as we mentioned that okay, facilities, employees behavior, employee adjustment, just like this, right? For the service as well, right? Facility is mean you can think about the tangible components, right? So for the service, right, everything that's tangible, you might pay attention and give the importance to them, right? Cleanliness, furniture, or layouts, or equipments, or decoration. Those all the things that are tangible to the customer is more important for the service because it make the customer feelings good for all your service, right? And believe right into your service, even though they are not getting the real service for you, but the facilities, the tangible component can make them get feelings impact to things like positive to your service. And the process is quite important, you can see. So that's why I'm bringing this slide to show you, because if you want to have a really good service, the process is quite important. So you need to make sure that the process is real fast, right? You might see that in some business, right, they have the problem with the process, right? Especially the way that they connect from department to another department, or the way of the communication, right? And that's gonna make have the very long time for the customer to achieve the output, right? For example, in the hospital, right? If you go to the private hospital and the state hospital, let's say it's quite different, because I have the example of my families that when they went to maybe Chulalongkorn Hospital or Thammasat or Comfort Hospital, you need to go there at least around 6 o'clock in the morning, and the fastest time that you finish is around noon or maybe 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Why? Because it is too long, I don't know, right? But if you go to Bumrungrad, BDMS, or that's kind of hospital might be faster, right? But if you look inside, the hospital is a good example to do the process improvement. You can see they have a lot of problem in there, right? Especially just the layout. Right? I have one of my experience, see that that's my dad went to the Chulalongkorn Hospital in the past. They have the different story, right? And for each story, they have the different department. And in each story, they have their own, the payments, or cashier, or window, or something like that. But sometimes they have something weird that okay, they have like have lunch at noon, so they close. Let's say that you see the doctor in the 5th floor. You're supposed to pay at the 5th floor, but they close at noon. They tell you that, okay, you need to go to the 7th floor. So then, okay, it's closed, I'm going to the 7th floor. And every customers go to the 7th floor, and then they wait too long until, okay, it's maybe 1 p.m. Right? The 5th floor is open. What happened? So, so the result is that it's something like that. I don't know what, but But the hospital, honestly, is one of the very good example of the improvement of the process. You're going to see a lot of insight. Another business that is very interesting about the improve the process is about the commercial banks. A lot of reconcile, a lot of approval, a lot of I don't know, but there's sometimes the problem with the process is about you try to have the too much approval for too much person, different person, and that make the very interesting, right? And the airline as well should be the another industry that maybe that we can think about improve the process, right? But anyway, process is very important for the service, right? Very, very important. Okay, so now what is the key idea here? The key idea is that, okay, we all know that the process consists of the linkage between the activities. So even though let's say you have 10 activities, but you have with just one activity or just one linkage between activities, it's gonna make right the strength of the overall getting weak, right? So it means that in order to having the better performance, you need to make sure that the strength of all the chains between activities have the very good, right? Fully just one process, fully just one connecting activities can make or impact to the final of the whole process as well. So we need to delight the customer at each processes, at each activities, which is a key. So from now, what should we do, right? First, if you want to improve the process, you need to things like the process view, not functional view. What is the process view? What is functional view? Process view is mean you things like the cross between departments. So for the functional view is mean you don't care others, you think just your department. And if you consider everything and see everything just like the functional view, it means that they're gonna have too many steps. And once you have too many steps, you're gonna ignore the links to others department. And this means that you ignore about the way that you're gonna satisfy the customer. Because you have too many steps, and sometimes once you have too many steps, honestly, you have no idea which step that you're gonna improve. You have a lot of things that you're gonna do, right? And normally, first you need to look as consider as a process view. Process view means you need to understand that each process is what they involve for each department. So I would say that you can see that the good person in each organization who are very good, they're good and they're also good in process. They know almost every process. They know that, okay, this process is going to pass to which department. They know that, okay, which document they're going to use. They know about the next step, okay, pass to this, and and then we're going to go to what activity or what department. So that is the first step that you have to do, is like understand and look at the process view. Right, know about how it linkage between each department, right? Not just only the functional view, right? Not just only the go deep into the vertical, but we want the like the horizontal, the links all the departments. So we're gonna start the first activities here, very old activities, and I don't know that you still use this or not so far, but in the past we all maybe used to use this. It's about fact, facts. Still using fact? No, or using email. Okay. So I'm not sure, but okay, I let you do using 2 or 3 minutes here, writing the process of sending a fact. Do you have the experience before? No. Please.
Japanese person would be able to answer.
Right?
Yep.
Yep.
Of course, still we use
Really?
for sending fax, right?
Okay.
Yeah, for the real estate sales, it's very important to use the fax.
The facts, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
because old people have fax function
Oh,
in the house.
okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just please write down the process sending a fax. I'm just let you to write the process of sending a fax. That's it. So everyone has a different point of view of sending a fax. So you just write down for that process. I'm going to see what happened, what the thing that I'm going to tell you about this. I think I'm going to ask you some 2 or 3 person here. So what is your process of sending a fax? And you're going to tell you what is a thing that you discovered. Please write the process of sending a fax. So someone now try to think of what decision procedure that you're gonna do. What are you gonna do for sending a fax?
Sure. No.
Finish? Okay. So who want to tell friends first? What is your, so you have the experience for sure.
Find the number who has fax.
Find the number first. Oh my God.
Look
Okay,
at
what next?
the book.
What next, Chris?
Write down the paper.
Write down the paper. What kind of thing that you write? The page?
Appropriate paper for sending the fax.
Appropriate paper to send the fax. Okay. What next?
Push the button.
Push the button. What button?
Dial.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Then confirm whether they can pick up the fax number or not.
okay.
Like that, maybe several like special sound like. Beep.
Okay, I know that. So,
Yeah.
and finish?
Call the
Call.
owner of the fax.
Okay.
Confirm the
Confirm by calling.
arriving the paper.
Okay.
That is the most important point.
Okay.
I send the paper right now. Can you see it?
Okay. Okay. More detail, yeah.
So real estate people style.
Okay.
You want to know about the house price, 5 million baht something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you buy it?
Okay. That's good point. Can you tell? Yeah.
So first you put the document.
Put the comment
Like at the back of the
at the back of the machine, right?
Mm.
machine. Then you call the number and wait until you hear the sound like
Yeah,
beep.
yeah.
Then you press the send button and then wait for like the machine to feed the
Mhm.
paper and then it's done. It's done.
Okay. Yeah, you can say that. Okay, I used to ask the participant that, okay, so just right now the process of sending the fax. So what is your, so please tell me. Everyone have the different details. One thing that you can see is about, the first one is the starting point and the ending point of your process. I used to see someone said, okay, at first I need to open the fax first. Open the fax machine, right? I used to have like someone said, okay, we need to consider that this fax machine, we need to, turn all the papers, right? This kind of what size, what kind of the tile of the fax that we're gonna use. Someone said that, okay, after you finish everything, don't forget to bring all the document back to your seat. Right? Don't leave it. And sometimes someone try to drawing the flow chart to tell what how can you send the fax. I see one person says early more than open the fax. They said we need to plug in the fax first. But you are the first one you said. So my point is that when you try to improve the process, yes, there's a thing that you need to understand. First is about starting and ending points. It's very important that you need to specific start and the end point of your process, then you can improve. Because based on the understand of each person, they have the different point of view. Right? For example, sending the fact process. For you, maybe the first or starting point is everything is ready for sense. You just put the paper into the machine. But someone said starting point of their process of sending the fact is about the write down all the information, right? Who was the one that you're going to send to, from whom, and how many pages that you have for the fax document that you're going to send, something like that. So starting and the end point is quite important. You need to specify and clearly that what is the starting of the process and ending of the process. And another one you can see is about the degree of the detail. If you have the too much details, you're going to have a problem because when we try to improve the process, for sure, finally, when before you improve, you need to do like what we call the process mapping, right? Just the drawing the flow of the process. If you have too much detail, you're going to have a lot of activities, a lot of things, and finally, you have no idea which one that you're going to improve because you have too much activities, too much detail, and you cannot see as the overall picture because it's more detail. So you feel like that okay, everything should be improved, right? So you cannot concentrate to the bottlenecks or the thing that you can improve. Right? And then the bottleneck is another one, right? That we're gonna see that sometimes we need to don't forget to identify that okay, which activities that probably be the bottleneck of the process. So my point is that the processes you can map in more detail, but it depends on the level that you want. But for us, for the process improvement, actually we prefer high level of the details. High level is mean not too much detail, right? Just the key processes, and then we're gonna analyze, go deeper at later on, right? But at first, when you try to go in the process, just the key processes. And another one that, like the activity that I want you to play, is for the family crisis game. Just for fun, I use this game for the participants a lot, and they have just 1 or 2 persons so far. That's real fast. Let's say less than 2 minutes to finish. Right. Okay. I want to challenge things 13. Maybe best 13, right? So for this game, please not searching for the solution, right? So just look at the screen. Now we have these families, right? It consists of 5 members of families, right? The dad, and the mom, right? The fat guy, the old guy, and the kid, right? Okay, all these families members want to, across from the right hand side to the left hand side using this bridge. But now it's like it's very dark. You need the light, right? So they have like a lamp, right, that can help them to see about the bridge, and then they can cross the bridge. Please help this family cross to another side. Please make sure that when you have the lamp, when you start it, it's gonna available for just 30 seconds. Every time that you cross the bridge, you need to carry them. And the bridge can carry just maximum 2 persons. And if you have, 2 persons cross the bridge, they're gonna counting the slowest one. For example, you look at the number at the top of each family members. This is a time that they need to cross from the right side to the left hand side. Let's say that the old ones, right, using 12 seconds to cross from this to this. But for the men, it's just one second, let's say. Right. So if these 2 go together, the time counting with the slowest one. And don't forget, every time that you cross, you need to see, right? Where's the bridge, right? So you have a lamp. So you need to send lamps to others to cross. And finally, make sure that all this go to this side. So my point is, can we do that? And if we do, how many seconds that we need? So we have the 6th person. How can we do it? Right? And you have the maximum time, 30 seconds only. What are you gonna do? From this to this. You can cross the bridge, one person or maximum 2. Right? And let's say you carry the lamp from here to here. When you go back, you still have the lamp go back, okay? So to send to another person to cross the bridge as well. So, can we do that? Or we cannot? What are you gonna do? Any question for this game so I can explain? No? Wanna try? Have 30 seconds. Can we do that? No, no one so? Impossible. Normally we have. Can you do that? If you just looking, maybe you cannot solve any. Right there is maybe there, but we're gonna try, right? We want all these members to go to that side. So I give you 2 more minutes. How can we do that? Who want to try? No? So I think real estate person might be. Can you try?
แป๊บนึง
My God. Okay. Come on.
ยากมาก
So I use this game for let the BBA student undergrad to play. They're so within 5 minutes.
อ๋อ
You do that?
80.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell? Let's just try. What are you gonna do?
First 1 and 3.
1 and 3. Yes.
Yeah, so that 3 seconds.
3 seconds. Yeah.
And then 1 come back.
1 come back. You have 4.
And then 6 and 1.
6 and 1. You have 10, right?
So that's 10. And then 1 come back.
1 back. You have 11.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then 8 and 12.
8 and 12. You have 23.
Yeah, 23. And then 3 come
3 come back. You have 26.
And then 1 and 3.
1 and 3. You have 20.
29.
29. Yeah. So, yeah. The solution is that we need 29 seconds. We have actually we have 2 different ways to do it. But you can see the keyword of this is, I believe at first there is some of you think that you're gonna using 1 to be the deliver guys.
Yeah.
1 and 3, 1 back, 1 and 6, 1 back, 1 and 8, 1 back, 1 and 12, 1 back, something. And if you do that way, you can have 31 seconds. Right? There's no finish within 30 seconds. But we are forget something that 8 and 12 is the 2 slowest person in this family. So if you want to reduce the time to cross the bridge, you need to take these 2 persons go together at the same time. So this is the trick. Right? So that's why your friend said 8 and 12 go together. But we need to send someone go to that site early, right? So let's say 3 that you said, and then use that carry the lamp back. Yes, it's about 29 seconds. Correctly. Why I let you to play this game? So nothing much. Actually, is when you do the process improvements, right? One skill and one thing that you need to keep in mind is about your logic. And not beside the logic is about the fact. So the most mistakes of doing the process improvement, especially for the management team, is that they're gonna think that the process is perform or operate just like the things. They are not going to see in that real place that right now what are the processes look like. Right? So they believe that process may be performed as they used to see before. Right? They not consider what actually is happening right now. So please be sure that every time that you're going to do the process improvement, you need to go to see the real one, right? And so that's why we require to do like the process mapping, right? Process mapping. Process mapping is about you drawing the process, right, as a flowchart, right? To show, first you're drawing the process to show about the as-is process, right? Or the current process. And we need to understand the sequence and the logics, right, of all the processes and the links. And yeah, for sure. Finally, once you finish improve, right, we're gonna show the process again to be the to-be process. Right? But one thing that you need to keep in mind that sometimes, right, we doing the process mapping because a picture is worth 1,000 words. Because if you just memorize and things in your mind, right, and not write down as a map the process, you're going to have the problem for sure for improving the process. Because the real one, you're going to see that there are a lot of detail, there are a lot of activities that involves besides the sequence. They also have who is going to be have the responsibility to this task, and also what kind of time requirements about the staff that we require for each activity, a lot of things. So doing the process mapping is a good way as a starting, right? And we also have like okay. We also have the data that needed for the process mapping, such as who is the customer, responsibility, or volume, something like that. And just like the flowchart, right? But I'm not teach you drawing the flowchart, but I just show you some symbol that usually used for drawing the process map, right? And normally we use this for activities. This is for data, using the direction by using the arrows and the documents, and the decision is quite important, right? If yes, go to where, if no, go to where, something like that. And sometimes when you're drawing the process mapping, right, there is, should not do like this. Sometimes you try to drawing just like this. Or something like this. If you have just a small, number of activities, it's okay. But you have a lot of activities, and you try to draw the flow chart for mapping the process. In this way, it's gonna very difficult for improve because it doesn't show the link between departments. So actually, the basics one that you should do is about you dividing into the department. This is department. Let's say this is maybe marketing. This is like the finance, something like that. This is like the warehouse, right? And you try to link like to show right the form how is go the way from each department to another department, something like that, right? So something like that. So if you divide it right by the department or divisions, it's better than that you try to mapping this one. Believe me that just small process is very long, right? And you have a lot of detail, right, that you're gonna draw. So that's why using just links between departments to show in the flow chart is better and easier to understand. So this is the way that we create a process map. You need to identify the activities. You need to consider about the sequence. You need to identify key decision. They have any decision, yes, no, have it or doesn't have it, or the decision points, right? And then connect it, right? And lastly, for the process map, this is what you should do and don't do. Right? What you should do is that we should do map the process as it actually happened. But we don't map the process as you think it happened or as you think it ought to happen. So this is the thing that I just mentioned. Mostly management things like this, right? Not map the real process. They map the process that they think it should be, or is the thing that is happen like this. Because they are not go to see the real one, right? The process that they passed before may be different with the current process that the subordinate perform, right? And the second one is about things across the organization, just like the process view, and also we need to talk to others, right, who are involved in the process, right? We need to define beginning and the end of the process before you start, and we require the high level of the details, as I mentioned, and ask questions if you have the problem. Don't, doing the process map, just stick in your own department. Don't work at the vacuum. So ask person, others. Don't attempt to mapping before you identify beginning and the end of the process, right? And don't get too much details because you're gonna have no clue which point first that you're gonna improve, and please ask the question. Okay? So this is the first way, right? So generally, this is a goal process improvement. We want to increase the productivity. We want to enhance about the effectiveness, efficiency, reduce the cost per unit, reduce about the time, and increase the customer satisfaction. So finally, the framework that you can use is just DMAIC. We're gonna talk each of them later, or now just have that way. Okay, so when you come back, you're gonna go to each frameworks, and then we're gonna see how can we